given that I've just spent 10 minutes promoting my interview with Cristiano Ronaldo, I think it's only fair to balance it out by saying that you've written a very excoriating column, as is your wont sometimes when you disapprove of something, about this today. You think it's a big mistake by Cristiano to do this. Why?
Well, first, congratulations. It's a great scoop. Piers. Hi, Graham. I think I'm just reflecting the views of probably the majority of Manchester United fans that this legend of the game, as you say, certainly one of the greatest, probably top 5 players of all time, is slightly tarnishing his reputation in terms of how he's presented himself. I mean, he really should have left in the summer. I think from what I've read so far and what I've heard and seen in your clips, Piers, there are elements of him making pertinent points, particularly about the lack of investment, it seems, in parts of Carrington and Old Trafford as well. So those are important things that he's saying there, and he is a statesman of the game, and he should be listened to. So I think it's an important interview. But I just think the timing of it, coming the day after Manchester United had a really gutsy win at Fulham. A young kid comes on, Garnacho's the future of the club. And I just think, talking to fans, and I'm sure ex-players will echo this, is that you have to respect the manager. And I think actually Ten Hag has been pretty respectful, because anyone who's seen Ronaldo play this season, he's 37. He's played, I think, 520 minutes in the Premier League, 1 goal, no assist. Look, he's been a fabulous player for Manchester United, Real Madrid, and clearly still with Portugal. But he's not the force that he was. And Ten Hag, new manager, new era.
Okay, before I go to Graham Souness, I just want to play a clip to both of you, which is a new clip from the interview, which I think may just give a little bit more insight into why Cristiano Ronaldo feels quite so disrespected by people that are running Manchester United right now. And I'll tell you the background to this, is there was a huge furore, as you know, Henry, about him not coming back to Manchester United in the pre-season when he should have done. Not a speculation that it was to do with him wanting to leave the club and get away and everything else. In fact, as he reveals to me in the interview, it was because his little daughter, Bella, 3 months old at the time, who had survived this terrible tragedy in which her twin brother had died, she got bronchitis so bad that she was in hospital for a week. And he felt duty-bound as a father, I'm sure we'd all understand this, to stay with her. I want to play the clip and then just see whether this perhaps slightly changes your mind. Let's watch the clip. You lost your baby son and now your baby daughter's in hospital.
Exactly.
And you must have been absolutely...
I spoke with the directive and the president of Manchester United, and then that didn't believe that something going wrong, which is make me feel bad.
Really?
Yes.
They don't believe you.
They believe you, but in the same way, I never is ever gonna change the health of my family for the football. Never. Now or 10 years behind or forward, and it's something that really hurt me because they doubt of my words that I struggle, especially Bella and Gio. We had 1 week in hospital because the Bella have a big problem. And I didn't go to the pre-seasons because of that, because I didn't was allowed to left my family if something happened to do it the pre-season, because I think it wasn't not fair to left my family for a pre-season. This is why I didn't go.
Now, when he said that to me, Henry, I have to say I was pretty shocked. And obviously I've not been able to put this to Manchester United. I don't know exactly who he spoke to, who didn't believe him. But the whole concept that anyone at senior level at Manchester United doubted Cristiano Ronaldo's word about his 3-month-old baby, given what had happened to his family 3 months before, I find pretty shocking, actually. And it's unsurprising to me that that led to the breakdown in the relationship.
There were clearly two narratives going on in pre-season. One of them, as Cristiano, who has very emotionally articulated there, and anyone with any children will absolutely empathise with him and his support for his partner and for his children and for his daughter. I think everyone totally understands that. And if Manchester United had not shown him the warmth, the love that he was expecting, then, you know, clearly they were wrong in that. My experience of Manchester United and the staff at Carrington and at Old Trafford, football and otherwise, is that actually it's not a cold club. It's actually a pretty warm club. There's a lot of good people there who will look out for a player like Cristiano, who obviously many of them got to know when he was a kid himself at 18. The other narrative, of course, was always the debate about his future and whether he should actually continue with a manager like Ten Hag. So I think really he should have gone in the summer anyway. But clearly everyone has sympathy for, you know, the family predicament he had at the time.
Okay, let me bring Graham in. Graham, you've been one of the great players this country has ever seen, a terrific manager as well. You've been on both sides of this fence. And I listened to you this morning on TalkSport, very interesting stories you were telling about your time at Liverpool and when similar things had happened to you and how you reacted and felt. What do you make of all this? Was Cristiano Ronaldo entitled to come out and have this say in this interview with me?
Well, that revelation that we've just watched, United will come out and deny it. They have to. They've not shown compassion. That such a terrible time for
not believing him.
Ronaldo.
His daughter was in hospital.
They have to come out and deny that. I mean, my take on that, whenever I was managing, I would leave it entirely up to the individual if the family were having a baby, if their wives were having a baby. So I'll leave it until you take as much time as you need, or if there's an illness in the family, take as much time as you need. We'll see you when we see you. So I'm sure United will come out and deny that. They will have another side to that story. I get Ronaldo's argument. I think, as much as people think they shouldn't cut him some slack, Ronaldo has a standing in the game which is quite unique.
Is he the best player there's been?
There's a real argument for him. I mean, I personally think it's him or Messi. His stats would suggest it's him. The fact he's done it in different leagues would go in his favour as well. But there's no doubt about it. He can sit in the room with anyone that's ever played football and say, you know what, I think the best that's ever played. There's a real argument for that.
Does that give you...
No, it doesn't. I know what you're going to say.
Does it give you any special entitlement?
I think it has to. I think Ronaldo still has so much to offer, not just in the playing sense, but what he gives you in the dressing room. I consistently say, Piers, that you have no chance of being successful unless you have good senior pros.
Right.
He's a consummate. He
still,
the best.
It seemed to me, I sat with him for nearly 2 hours. He's still got this hunger burning inside him to win more big trophies, to break more records, to be more successful. And what he really craves is an environment around him that can enable all that to happen. And he feels he just hasn't got that at United. And a lot of it, he said, is down to poor structure and management of the club.
He's spot on. I mean, this is not... Whenever I talk about United supporters are up in arms. What do you expect from someone who played and managed Liverpool? But I think United have been mismanaged further up the tree. I think they've consistently got the football decisions wrong, and that's why they find themselves in this dilemma. I think, getting back to Ronaldo, I think Ronaldo, when he came along, I was all for it. And
when he came back?
Yeah, when he came back. I mean, there was nobody in that dressing room. There was nobody in that dressing room that younger players would look up to and say, I want to be like him in 10 years' time. He was the ultimate pro you could have gotten to correct that with these tragedies and the baby dying and the other baby becoming ill. That you'd have to cut some slack. I'm sure United will have a different story. But I believe when he says he wants to leave, there was a meeting at the start of the season. There's a meeting would have taken place between the manager and Cristiano. After that meeting, they both left the room with an understanding that it's going to work. United start the season losing to Brighton and then losing to Brentford badly. I think at that moment, I think the manager and the coaching staff thought, we cannot go down the road of using Ronaldo. There was a feeling that maybe he couldn't do the hard yards. So from that point on, I think Cristiano would have realised that. He's been around the block many, many times. So basically, Ronaldo will feel right now that he's been told a story. Someone has not kept her word, which is the manager. And
I don't know if you've ever had a moment, Graham, and I had a moment rather famously last year when I had a little falling out with my employers and I felt I was being disrespected by people I work with, and I did this. And I, to be honest, don't regret doing that at all. So I kind of get, let me go back to Henry for a moment. I kind of get that if you're Ronaldo, one of the great players to ever play the game, and you feel disrespected professionally in terms of what is happening on the pitch and the way you're being used, being benched, being dropped, being publicly scolded, the mixed messaging of Ten Hag not bringing him on against Manchester City when they got a thumping and saying he did it out of respect for Ronaldo, and then literally a week later trying to bring him on with 3 minutes left when they're winning 2-0 against Tottenham, apparently showing the complete opposite attitude. If you feel there's been this build-up of all this kind of disrespectful stuff towards you, and you have in the background this awful personal stuff going on as well, and you feel that the club has even doubted your word about some of that, I can see how we've reached this point where he feels enough and has come out all guns blazing.
The truth in football is always out there on the pitch, and Graham, as a former manager and a former player, makes a very pertinent point that Ten Hag, the new coach, clearly felt that Ronaldo couldn't put in, to use Graham's phrase, very apt phrase, he couldn't put in the hard yards on the pitch. And the Premier League particularly is such a gruelling assignment now. It's just all about stamina, it's all about pressing, and with respect to one of the greatest players who's ever played, Ronaldo at 37 wasn't going to be doing the pressing that was required. He's clearly a superior player to Rashford, but Rashford would run himself into the ground for the team. So I think, look, there are other issues there. I think not coming off the bench when he was asked to. Graham's been in the dressing room. I don't know how Graham would have reacted if any of his Liverpool players had refused to come off the bench. And then going down the tunnel, and this element that it's all about me, when in fact...
Well, he does say to me... Yeah, look, he does...
Absolutely embodied in his Liverpool teams that it's all about... It should all be about the team.
Yeah, I do think Ronaldo's about the team, but I think he believes his own... I do think Ronaldo, he believes his own personal goals and excellence as a footballer helps the team. He thinks the two go hand in hand. He did say to me, he did apologise to all his teammates and shouldn't have done what he did at Tottenham. But he also said that he just felt this ongoing disrespect from his coach, both about personal stuff and professional. And he just said it boiled over.
Well, I think it's down to him changing his mind from the two. This is what I believe, the two losses, Brentford and Brighton. And then at that point, he has to sit down with them again and say, look, this is what I'm thinking. I think it just boils down to, and it's to his credit that Ronaldo wants to play every minute of every game.
Right.
He still sees himself as a winner. He will be a realist as well. He'll realise he can't do the running down the channels.
He actually admits that. He admits that in the interview. He says he's not the player he was, but he thinks he's a smarter player than he used to.
And Henry references Rashford. There's no comparison. Because your stats say that you ran whatever kilometres or how many miles, it's the end product. The hardest thing in football is to score goals. He does that better than anyone that United has. If I'd been managing him, I think you have to come up with this. United are not in a place right now where they want to be. That's the politest thing I can say.
Well, they're fifth in the league. They're 13 points off the top. They're in the playoffs for the Europa League. This is not a place United are used to being.
Take 18 goals out of United seasons last year.
They could have been in the relegation zone.
Where did they finish?
Yeah.
There's still room for Ronaldo at United. And I think this whole saga it's been handled so badly, it was avoidable. I think with better communication, with people telling the truth, and I think that's where Ronaldo's beef is. I think he's been told an untruth.
Can he stay there now?
I don't think he can. I think all the bridges are burnt now.
Henry, is there any way back for Cristiano, even if he wanted to come back?
No chance, and particularly the timing of your very good interview, Piers. The timing of it, shortly after the final Premier League game of the first half of the season, there's no way your interview could have gone out a week ago, because if he'd had to step out in front of the Manchester United fans who for so many years sang Viva Ronaldo, he would very sadly have got a different reception. And
he might, but of course, if Portugal have a good run in the World Cup,
a lot of Manchester United fans.
Right, but if Portugal have a good run in the World Cup, they've got a good team, and Ronaldo starts banging in goals in the World Cup. In the end, great players hold a lot of power.
Fantastic.
You see, we're obsessed.
Fantastic, but he's 37. He's not the player he was.
Right, final word.
He's still got a lot to offer, Henry. If you go back to Aguero at City, where he wouldn't be deemed to have been the best at doing the hard yards, the closing down, the unwanted stuff. Strikers don't really enjoy it. he would get away with it. United should have looked at this situation.
But Manchester United have got a new manager and a new era, and Ten Hag was always going to be Manchester United's future.
I'm saying we're obsessed.
Ronaldo was very much their past, and he should have gone in the summer.
We're obsessed. This whole situation has been handled very badly by United, in my opinion. He's a player he should have kept on side. He's a player that's still
Ronaldo.
He is a player that's something that he is still, I think, a hell of a lot to offer a football club. For me, they've handled it very poorly. How do you think it was going to end when you're upsetting a player of his standing?
I think that's the bottom line. Yeah.
We're talking about this instead of United on the front foot, moving forward, winning a difficult game.
I also think, to be fair to Cristiano, that you've got to watch the whole interview. All people have seen so far are a few clips, literally, just like 2 or 3 clips. It's a long 90-minute plus interview. We're going to air over 2 days.